The All-Star break is over, and despite some close calls with the virus, everybody did still manage to have a fun weekend with probably one of the more entertaining All-Star games and three-point contests in recent memory. But with the second half of the season being here, let's talk about a few teams whose play in this part of the season will determine quite a few things for them going into this offseason. So first up, we're going to talk about a team that has kind of been on a comeback as of late, and that's the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavs have been a pretty disappointing team for pretty much the whole season. Now, a lot of that is due to injury, time out with the virus, and Kristaps not really being Kristaps. But nonetheless, they are barely holding on to that 8th spot in the Western Conference. The Warriors are only half a game behind them, and the Grizzlies are one full game behind them. After that, there's a bit of a cushion, but they still can't afford any extended losing streaks. Something positive is that Luka Doncic has been shooting by far a career high from three-point range as of late. He's gotten his season average up to 35%. And if that keeps going up, I have no idea how teams will manage to defend him. In a video I made a couple months ago, I talked about the box and one Luka has been seeing a lot and how they need another perimeter playmaker and scorer out there with Luka. This still rings true, but Porzingis has looked a bit better in February. His three-point stroke still isn't really there despite him having an 8 for 12 game and a 5 for 8 game in that month. But improvement is improvement. He gave them 22 points per game with 61% true shooting. If he can maintain that, it will definitely help the Mavs a great deal in maintaining their playoff seeding. If they're lucky, maybe they can get out of the play-in tournament. The emergence of Jalen Brunson also certainly helps. He gave them 13 points per game on 65% true shooting in February, because February is the end-all be-all. They also still have Tim Hardaway Jr., obviously. He's definitely come back down to earth, but he's still a solid scorer. I mean, I'm going to say it pretty much every single time I talk about the Mavericks. They just need somebody who is better than good on the perimeter. So keep a close eye on the Mavs for the second half. They could be in the trade market too. I mean, there's been Lowry rumors. I've mentioned him before. Levine isn't happening now that he's apparently really freaking good. I mean, Oladipo, if you really want to, I wouldn't if I were them. They just need somebody to go to the next level, if you ask me. They also have one of the easiest schedules in the second half. They're at 29th in strength of schedule, so they've got that going for them. But anyway, enough about the Mavericks. Now we're going to move from Texas to South Beach, and the Miami Heat are heating up. Okay, anyway, the Heat are actually looking better as of late. They went 10-5 in February after starting the season 7 of 12. And they are right back in the thick of things in the Eastern Conference. I mean, Jimmy Butler has only played 22 games this season, and they are 14-8 in those games. That's not some mind-blowing difference, but on the court the difference is ridiculous, and it's very clear that they have been missing him. Bam has carried this team to a 500 record at the break, and in order to reestablish themselves in that contender tier, they're really going to have to pick up their play. It doesn't help much that they're missing that Jay Crowder type player, and Tyler Hero hasn't really been that good. I mean, 15 points on 53% true shooting isn't great, especially considering he doesn't really provide a whole lot else. At the end of the day, it's just about this team finding ways to fill their gaps left by some losses in free agency, and some other guys stepping it up. Precious Achiuwa has been a great surprise for them, especially defensively. The other thing is to just get healthy, man. Only 5 players have played 30 or more games. Bam, Duncan Robinson, Precious Achiuwa, Kelly Olynyk, and Andre Iguodala. So, yeah, if they have more guys playing more games, I think they definitely look a lot different. And despite all of that, they're still the 6th seed. It's not like they're some bottom of the conference team. If we want to talk about the trade market for a bit, there's been the obvious rumors of Oladipo. I mean, I just don't know what to think about him at this point. He's been bad this year, basically. Sure, he's got 20 points per game, but 38% from the field and 31% from 3 in Houston? I just don't even bother, honestly. There's also a little bit to talk about Harrison Barnes. He's kind of the Jay Crowder type in the sense that he can knock down some shots and keep the offense rolling, can kind of defend a little bit. As for what they'd even trade for him, I assume it's Olynyk, Leonard, none. I don't really know how many firsts they can trade, but I know that they don't have one this year, so their record is kind of important. But anyway, they are the 27th in strength of schedule for the rest of the season, so things should be okay for them as long as they're healthy. Last up for me today are the Washington Wizards, who are quite the story this season. They started off the season 4-12, and I'm pretty sure they were like 6-17 at one point, and they looked like they were just completely out of it already. Bradley Beal was dropping insane scoring numbers, and they were still losing. It was abysmal, but they started to pick it up in February, going 9-7 and 7-2 in those last 9 games of the month. It really helps that Bertans stopped being the worst shooter in NBA history. He shot 43% from 3 in February on almost 8 attempts, so he's returning to form, and that was one of the biggest problems to begin with. They've also been playing Garrison Matthews over guys like Troy Brown Jr., but to his credit, he's been shooting 41% from 3 on 3 attempts. So really, from my understanding, the Wizards getting better and getting things together like this is really just thanks to some increased offensive production from guys on the roster not named Russell Westbrook. Defense, still horrendous, but that's just going to be how it is. They are 21st in strength of schedule for the rest of the season, so it shouldn't be too bad, but 21st also isn't a piece of cake. Keeping up their offensive production to overcome their poorest defense is going to be quite the task, and that doesn't matter who they play. But that's pretty much it for me. These are 3 teams that you should keep an eye on going into the second half of the season. There's plenty of other teams too. Boston has been talked about to death, which is why they aren't in this video. Whether the Knicks can keep up their defense for the rest of the season is also something to watch. Where Portland ends up when CJ and Nurkic come back. There's just a lot of things to keep an eye on. I love the NBA, man. But if you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're into my GM/my NBA stuff, I just recently started an Orlando Magic series, so check that out if you'd like. We're 4 episodes in at this point. But if you didn't like the video, leave a dislike, and y'all have a good one.